Welcome to the Choir Loft at Lutheran Memorial Church in Madison, Wisconsin. I'm Andrew Schaeffer, Director of Music, and I'm here to give you a tonal and physical tour of our 1966 Austin pipe organ. This instrument contains over 3,500 pipes. Actually, what you see in the facade is just a small sampling, and when you go upstairs, you'll see what I'm talking about. And it has 56 ranks, and to organ nerds out there, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. To you peasants out there, rank simply means a complete set of pipes. And so every pipe in the organ has one job to do, and that is to play in one stop, in one rank, and play one note. So you have 3,500 handcrafted pipes that are just assigned to do one job, which is just pretty incredible. And so in a given rank, in this instance, there are either 32 for the pedal or 61 for the manuals. So as I play up the scale, that is a single rank, and every single note you heard was an individual pipe. So we have 56 ranks. Just a little history on this organ, actually. When this building was dedicated in 1923, this was not the instrument that accompanied those services, obviously, because it was installed in 1966. Our original organ was built by the M.P. Molar Company of Hagerstown, Maryland. And if you look at the front of the church, you'll see red pipes, they used to be gold, on either side of the chancel. If you're looking at the chancel on the left-hand side is just a facade. Those pipes never spoke, and actually it's an exterior wall behind that. So it was just there for symmetry. The entire instrument of, I believe, around 45 ranks was shoved into double-stacked chambers on the right-hand side of the nave, which is the base of our bell tower. There used to be balconies there. Actually, the choir sang from that side balcony, and the organ console was up there with the choir. And the decision was made in the 1960s to replace the Molar, mostly because it was having a lot of water damage being in the tower. Flat roofs are no friend to organ chambers. To put in this Austin took a lot of work because the balcony actually only came out to the first column here. In Gothic architecture, we call this the first bay. And so it was a very shallow balcony. It was only designed as extra seating. And so the plan was to extend the balcony, and it actually was quite a significant sum of money, to redo this entire choir loft. And the results are wonderful. I can think of no better arrangement for this organ and choir than what they designed in the 1960s. And it's quite a sizable loft. It seats almost 100 people. So we're grateful to those people who designed our balcony and the organ. So that's a little bit about the history of it. Let's get to some sound, shall we? When I look at a stop, it's going to tell me two different things, and that is the name of the stop, and also it'll give me a number, like 8, 4, sometimes a fraction like 2 2/3, or 16 or 32. And the numbers actually correspond with the length of the lowest pipe. And so if I draw a stop that has 8, means that low C is 8 feet tall. And that means that when I play middle C here on an 8-foot pipe, that will correspond to middle C on the piano. Now if we can summon our second grade math skills, half of 8 is 4. So when I play middle C, it'll sound an octave above that. 4 is 2, Now if we're going the other way, double 8 is 16, so middle C will play 1 octave lower. And we don't have a real 32 foot. They use some trickery to get a sound, but if I were to play the 32 foot middle C, it would sound like this. Or rather, there you go. That's the middle C, sound of a 32 foot. You might wonder why have all these different pitches. Well, you can combine them to make a really glorious chorus. And that's what organs are built on, choruses. A successful organ will have many different choruses. So listen to me build a chorus from the unison. Add the 4, the 2. Now I'm going to add a cluster of pipes called a mixture. And finally the 16. And listen to the pleasant sound. There are choruses in all of the different manuals. You can do the same thing up on this keyboard. Etc., etc. So that's what the number tells me, but I have all sorts of different weird names like Bourdon and Nachthorn and Erzähler and Gedeckt and Nason flute. And organists spend a good deal of their time learning what all of these different names mean and their function in organ literature and in color. So what you're seeing here is really sort of an orchestra, and so what makes the organ so versatile for worship is that in the hands of a capable player and a capable builder, you can create an instrument that has an incredible amount of dynamic range. You can boil all of these different names down to 4 distinct, we call them families of tone. The first is called the diapason tone, or the principal tone, and it's a sound that is very unique to organs. It doesn't sound like any orchestral counterpart. And you actually heard me play it. This is an 8-foot diapason on the grate. There are diapasons all over the organ, and you heard that chorus I played. Sounds like a very typical hymn registration you would hear on a Sunday morning. So. There are principles in all the divisions, and division means, a manual or a pedal. And there's another principle here in the swell. Another little one here in what's called the positive. So again, that's how we build that very, pun intended, organic organ tone. So that's the principles. Oh, and I have one in my feet too, and that's 16 feet tall, and actually it's in the facade, as it were, in the posts. There's actually another 16-foot principle, also in the facade. It's a little softer. The next family of tone is the strings, and these will not wow you for their imitation here. They originally were supposed to imitate like a Viola Da Gamba in the Baroque era. And in the 1920s, our old Molar probably had strings that sounded very similar to orchestral strings. This Austin has kind of a quasi-in-between sound, and so here is a string sound. That is actually called the Viola Da Gamba. Now you're going to say to yourself, well, that sounds nothing like a string. And you'd sort of be right. But what makes the sound of strings in the orchestra so magical is actually their imperfection. In that when you have this massive violins playing together, for instance. Actually, if they were playing dead in tune, it would sound very screechy and kind of hurt your ears. But the natural shimmer that comes from the orchestra is from being slightly out of tune. And so the organ designers over the years captured that by doing a trick. So I've got one rank of pipes, the Viola Da Gamba, playing perfectly in tune with the rest of the organ. There's another set of string pipes called a voix celeste, and they are actually tuned slightly sharp. Listen. Here's the other one. Why would they do that? Well, you combine them and you get a beautiful sound. There is another set of strings in this organ called an Erzähler, which German means storyteller. It's got its own celeste. And now, technically, we have another set of, it's called undulating rings, when you have these two that are fighting each other but are somehow in harmony. And it's a member of a different family, but I'll play it, I'll just lump them into the strings too. It's called the flauto dolce and the flute celeste, and they're back up in this top manual called the Swell Division, and makes the softest sound in the organ. And I hope you can hear it over the construction noise. Sounds like what you would hear at the end of communion when we're trying to quiet everyone down. So that's the strings. The next family of organ tone are flutes. And they come in a variety of different constructions and sizes and everything like that. Perhaps the flute that sounds most like its orchestral counterpart is called the whole flute, and it's in the Swell Division, which is this manual. Listen. You can hear just a little bit of articulation if you listen carefully, again, over the construction. Sort of like the attack of a flautist playing. Like I said, there are other flutes. There's what's called a roar flute, and it has a different construction. It has kind of a chimney on the pipe, and you'll see this when we go up there. There's another flute. The Great Division. Actually, I should pause a minute and say these keyboards have names, and they are in different areas of the case. On this side, the bottom manual is called the Choir Division, and it is enclosed, meaning it has blinds, kind of Venetian blinds that I can use to control the sound. So I can make some nice effects. Like that. On top of the Choir Division is the Great Division, which is kind of the backbone of the whole organ, and that's the middle keyboard. Going to this side, you will, behind it is called the Positive Division, and that has a nice light, sparkly sound like this. And that's actually hidden behind the facade there. And then on the very top there is what's called the Swell Division, and it is called the Swell Division because, like the Choir Division, it has shutters that I can open and close to create effects. Division that I play with my feet is sort of scattered all around in the facade especially, but some of the other stuff is actually up with the Great Division. I'll show you that when we go up for our chamber tour. So back to flutes. There's another flute called a Bourdon, and that is a pipe that has a cap on the top. Another one called a Koppel Flute, and it actually has a construction of like a dunce cap on the top. And then another called the Nason Flute, and this has actually a lot of fifth in the tone. I can combine flutes to get some very beautiful effects, like I can build up a chorus. This is called a cornet. So I said flutes have choruses too of their own. The final family of tone is called the reeds, and they include pipes that sound like clarinets, have to use a little dose of imagination there, bassoon, oboe, and organists, organ builders break the rules, and trumpets, brass instruments are considered reeds. Now, they are not reed instruments in the orchestra or in the band, but they are reeds here, and that is because a reed pipe actually has a brass metal tongue, a reed that vibrates, and then what you see on the top is called a resonator. And so the sound comes in the bottom of the pipe and then is amplified in different means through the resonators. So here's an example of a trumpet on the organ. Here's the small trumpet. Here's another trumpet at 4-foot pitch. A trumpet on the Great Division that actually is not original to our Austin. My predecessor, Bruce Bankson, had it added in 1986, and it was a very thoughtful addition. There's one last trumpet. It's called the Bombard, and it does what you think it's going to do. Fanfare trumpet, and it can soar over the rest of the organ. So the possibilities here, as you can see, are endless. I can mix and match pitch levels. Here's an 8 and a 2. Come up with some really weird combinations, like this. Like I said, lots of fun. Well, now that you've gotten a sense of the families of tone, I'll just talk a little bit about how I manipulate it and what all these extraneous buttons are all about. I haven't really touched many of these stops, and they're tabs set aside. And these are called couplers. And so I can put on one that says like swell to great, and literally take a sound that's in the swell and play it on the great keyboard. Or I could say swell the choir and play it down here. Swell the pedal. I can assign it at different pitch levels, so I can say, okay, bring the swell to the great, but I want it to play down an octave. So I could consequently do it an octave higher. Or all three together. So that's very useful in manipulating the sound and combining things, and it opens up a lot of possibilities. You'll notice there's a ton of buttons. Who's got the button? That's Willy Wonka. Anyway, kind of like Willy Wonka's elevator. They all do different things and take you different places. And these are called pistons, and they function in much the same way that your car radio presets do, so you can scroll through your favorite radio stations. I can scroll through my favorite sounds. And so if you've ever wondered how I go from one sound in the middle of a hymn obviously, my hands and feet are too busy playing stuff. I can't go and manually draw all these stops in and out. So I can pre-record them on these buttons. And they are logically designed to manipulate different parts of the organ. So I have buttons here called generals, and on this organ we have 14 of them, and they're duplicated in the feet by special buttons. Generals control every stop on the organ. We have these buttons in the middle. We have 7 on each keyboard that are called divisionals, and they control only the keyboard that you're playing, plus what's in the pedal. So you can do that, and you watch, you can see them only affecting certain parts of the organ. So in 1966, when this organ was first installed, it had electromechanical switches that actually did all of the work. And so this big console here was jam-packed with the equivalent of a 1966 computer that handled all of this logic, and then also sent the connection between the console here up to the chambers up there. My predecessor in 2008 very sympathetically replaced that system with a modern microprocessor, and actually was built in Alsip, Illinois by the Peterson Company and installed by Erickson Christian and Associates of Chicago. And so this console was, like I said, jam-packed, and now if you were to open it up, you would see not a PC per se, but a computer the size of a shoebox that runs all of the logic of the organ. So it's come a long way. The other nice thing about it is that the computer will allow me to have levels of memory. So I have 128 levels. So, and a level means that I can scroll through all of these pistons. So really thousands and thousands of pistons now, making it very easy for various organists to come through, and you don't have to spend all this time resetting all of your settings. Anyway, enough of me jabbing about the console here. It's time to go up into the chamber and take a look at how this thing makes music. So obviously the organ is on 2 separate sides of the room, and you actually access each case differently. We're going to start out, if you're looking at the great window here in the back on the right-hand side of the organ. If we go up this staircase, you'll see a little door magically opens, and we're inside the case. So here we are underneath the right-hand side. I guess it's the east case in the balcony, and fortunately our work light here is a little dim, so I got my phone light out, and you'll see this is where old organ parts come to die. These are the old stop jams, and they were discarded in 2008 when the computer was put in, and they built new ones, but they are kept in here for safekeeping. This is a particularly interesting piece of Luther Memorial history. This is the swing, I just gave myself a splinter, that came down the back wall, and you would actually hop on that thing, and there's a winch, and ride up to the old catwalk, 80 feet off the floor, and swing off this little piece of wood and change the old lighting system. Very glad that this piece of memorabilia has been relegated to the graveyard here. Anyway, coming in, you'll see one of many called reservoirs. And if the organ were on, which it is not right now, this would actually inflate and be full of air, and it's designed to kind of bounce up and down as air is needed in the various parts of the organ. But we're going to see first where the air comes from. So, if you step over here, we're going to sneak into this compartment. So here we are in what's called the blower room, and you can see we have a pretty hefty fan that was built by the Spencer Turbine Company and put in 1966 when the organ was new. This is a completely soundproof room. And you might be wondering, where is this? I thought he went behind the wall. Well, if you look at the front of our church, you'll see two areas that kind of jut out on the sides of the church. And they have skinny stained glass windows that have been boarded up. Well, I am in one of those rooms right now with the skinny stained glass window. And the stained glass window is actually behind this wall, all covered up. You'll get to see it in a different part of the building, but this particular space was where part of the old Molar was. It was called the echo organ. And so there were pipes in the balcony here, but they were behind the wall, and very few, only about 6 or 7 ranks, plus a set of chimes. So anyway, this is our controlled room. The blower has its own heater, and again, soundproof as possible to make sure that we don't hear. It's a very loud piece of equipment. So the air is sucked out of this room, and you can see all these battleship gray tubes, and that is what shoots the wind to all the various areas within the organ. All right, so here we are. We just came up the ladder that was here in the east case. You can see there's actually a lot of empty space on this side of the organ. I'm not sure. I don't think they ever had use for this space. It was always mechanical, but you can certainly put a lot more pipes in it. So behind the facade, there's another secret door. It's painted black so you don't see it, but that's what allows us to come out here into the positive division. And I'm going to step aside, and you're going to get an incredible view of the church. So to give you a sense of how high up we are, you can see I'm eye level with the chandeliers, which, and if you're afraid of heights, as I sort of am, I've gotten used to this organ, but it can be kind of a thrill to come up here. And so anyway, so if you want to step out on the ledge here, you can see the pipes of the positive division. And there's, you can see how the ranks work. And so this set of wooden pipes, this is called a Nason flute, and there's a pipe for every note on the keyboard. And so this is a single rank. You can see this is a rank, this is a rank, this is a rank, and then we have 3 smaller pipes here. So here's again the Nason flute, and wooden construction, and it has a little, it's called a stopper on there, and you can tune the organ by making minor adjustments to the length of the pipe, just minute ones. This is what the Nason flute sounds like. Next we have called the Koppel Flute, another member of the flute family, but it has a dunce cap, as you can see, on it, and that gives it another unique tone. I am not going to pick one up because I'm afraid of bumping one of the pipes and getting it out of tune, and during COVID-19 I can't bring the tuner here, so So we're gonna let that go. And here you're going to see another piece of Lutheran memorial history. If you see this this grill, this is actually this is the top of that room I was in, where the blower was in, and this was the opening for the old Molar echo chamber. And so the sound would come out here, obviously, and kind of waft down there and sound very ethereal. Like I said, the majority of the Molar organ was up in the tower there, but again, it did have a few ranks that were here in the balcony. And if you see here, you climb this ladder, sort of in the open air. It's very spooky, all the way up to the swell. And you can see the backs of some of the what are called Bourdon pipes, the mahogany pipes that are in the facade on the side. So we're going to head up to the swell. I hope we make it. So here we are up in the Swell Division. You can see it's pretty jam-packed with pipes. There's not a lot of room to maneuver up here, and you've got pipes actually on the wall, some of them laying on their sides, and actually there's some in the ceiling here. I survived my trip up to the scary ladder, and actually you can get a pretty neat view of the nave, the choir loft from up here. So if you look where we are eye level with those spotlights up in the balcony, about 50 to 53 feet off the floor. And believe it or not, we have members of the congregation who climb a ladder to replace those lights, and God bless them. If you want to join the high maintenance crew, talk to Douglas Swigum. Anyway, very high up here in the church. Of course, the church goes up another 30 feet from those spotlights for a grand total of a little over 80 feet. But anyway, here we see some more different pipes. This is a principal pipe, and it is made out of zinc, though some principal pipes are made out of a mixture of tin and lead called spotted metal, and you can see the metal there like that. And so this is the 8-foot principal. It is actually a technique called mitering. They take an 8-foot long pipe and kind of bend it over and contorque it just to make it work. We have another type of flute. I mentioned when I was at the console the roar flute, and it has a chimney on the top, which gives it a really distinct sound. And finally, here are some of the reed pipes that you see. And this is the Resonator, and actually this is the bass and the boot, and within there is that brass reed that vibrates, and then again this resonator helps to mold in the sound and get it out into the room. So there are 3 reed ranks here. This is the 4-foot trumpet called a clarion. Then if I get over on this side, there's an 8-foot trumpet, and then behind that there's a bassoon, the 16-foot. Back here you can see a wooden set of pipes. That's called the whole flute. That's the one that sounds a lot like the orchestral counterpart. And then there's the strings in the back. And I apologize, the lighting is not very good. We're dealing with fluorescent work lights in a pretty dark environment. But that is the Swell Division, and I will now descend this ladder back down while getting an incredible view of the nave. On our way down, I just wanted to point out this incredible view on the ladder. See the great window from a pretty unique vantage point. So, alright, I'm heading down. Now we are going to head into the west organ case. You do so by removing a fake panel which reveals this tiny little door. Here we see some of the largest reed pipes in the organ. This is the 16-foot bombard, that very loud stuff that I had so much fun showing you. We're actually going to walk for a little change of pace inside one of the chests for this organ. You might be wondering, well, I've understood what happened at the console. I've seen the pipes and see how they make the work, but what's the mechanism that makes this work? Well, I'll have to show you. And I do it by removing one of these panels. You see the inner workings of the organ. This is a system that is proprietary to the Austin Organ Company, called their Universal Chest. And I'll try to boil it down into the simplest form possible. So if you look up here, those little metal discs called valves. And so on top of every metal disc there sits a pipe. And so what happens when I play a note on the console is that I actually, well, it's rather dark, I activate, when I pull on a stop, I activate a magnet that moves a metal bar, which you can see there that tells the pipes it's their turn to speak. And then, as I play notes on the organ, I am firing these magnets here, and a pneumatic exhausts, and actually you can see them here. So the pneumatics. So that will exhaust. And as I do that, a wooden stick called a tracker will move with it as I exhaust that pneumatic. And if I had stops on and the organ was on, the valve would open on the select rank that I had chosen and would allow air to open the pipe. As I mentioned, this is a proprietary design by Austin. And what's really nice about it is that you can, A, get a really close look at it, and B, you can actually work on the organ and fix problems while it is in operation, which makes the job easier for the organ tuner. I have the organ off now just for sound purposes. So anyway, that is how the chest works. So we're going to step out of this tiny air chamber and we're going to climb up another very tall ladder to look into the choir and the grate. I'll see you up there. I'm now standing in the choir division. You can see it, like the Swell Division, is tightly packed, and you can see the other side of those shutters that open and close to control volume. There are two unique effects that are here that are not organ pipe related. One is a set of chimes. I actually didn't show that to you at the console. These chimes actually come from the old Molar. They were moved up here in 1966 to save some money, which is good because they are good chimes. I'll ding one so you can kind of hear. They're much louder when you have the actual mechanism. I can't hit them too loud, but you get the idea. Maybe I can. And then down here we have another little feature called the Zimbelstern. It is actually donated by our videographer, Dave. Well, I'm the videographer now, but our usual videographer, Dave Parmenter, in honor of Bruce Bankson. And when you activate it, that spins and creates a real delightful sound. If you listen to Easter Sunday worship, you heard that make a few appearances. So anyway, this is the choir division. Like the Swell, there's all sorts of different pipe construction, well, like every division really. You got a few 8-foot pipes that have been mitered. You have another flute set of pipes that has a cap on them. It's called like a deck. And then on the side there, you'll see it's called a Crumb Horn. That's the sound that sort of sounded like a clarinet. And actually, this is not the original Crumb Horn for the organ. It was replaced. The original one was replaced for this new one in 1986 when they did all the other work. But you can see we are the view of the nave from here, directly behind those facade pipes, sort of on that mid-level up. And here's the other end of the Bourdon pipes, the mahogany Bourdon pipes. So anyway, now we are going to climb this ladder and go up one more level to the Great and Pedal Division. Here we are in the Great Division. This is the last chamber we'll visit on our tour. You can kind of see where we are and get a sense. Get a really incredible view of the nave from up here. Again, 52 feet off the ground. And this is the pipes of the Great Division, and then over on this side are the pedal pipes. Like the Swell, you can see it made from a variety of metals, including the zinc bases here, and then that spotted metal on here. And off to the side here is actually not an original part of the organ. This trumpet and tierce were added in 1986 by J.C. Taylor of Appleton, Wisconsin. This is the trumpet I was saying was a very worthy addition of the organ. Finally, you can see all the way down. And as someone who is not a huge fan of heights, I am ready to descend that ladder and get back to the ground. Lest you think the organ tour is done, we have one little bonus space to show you. And it is the old Molar Chamber. You access it by removing a panel here. And now you can see what's behind that little section that juts out. And I said there's one on the other side, but that has been completely sealed off. But this one is able to see. There is an old door that was actually in the old gym, the basement, before it was renovated in the 1990s. And there's some plaster paneling from the molding. When the Austin was installed, they had to take the paneling out to make the organ fit. So they kept spares in here, and believe it or not, over the years, we have, as plaster has broken, used these spares and fixed a few things. So anyway, again, this is not the old main Molar Chamber. That was up front in the tower. And I believe Douglas Swigum may give you another video tour of that space. This is simply the space where the Echo division of the Molar was. So hope you enjoy this secret space. Here I am back on the main level of the balcony. Very delighted to be back after climbing all of those ladders. I hope you've enjoyed this brief tour of our 1966 Austin organ, Opus 2449. And hopefully one day we will also make a tour of our 1893 J.W. Steer and Son organ, although thankfully a lot less climbing with that one. So stay tuned for that video. But again, if you have any questions about this particular instrument, pipe organs in general, or about really music at all at Lutheran Memorial Church, I'd love to hear from you. Reach me at Schaeffer, SCHAEFFER, at luthermem.org. Thanks again for watching.